Your day is, it's always nice to reach the last lap. My name is Lucy Williams. I'm a specialist anaesthetist and I do pain medicine as well in Swindon. I was a College Council member at the Royal College of Anaesthetists, which is why I still get invited to these things, which is lovely. So our speakers in the final session, we're going to be concentrating on leadership and leadership development. They're all going to be actually giving very personal stories about the things they've done and how they've got there. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing them. Waleed Arshad, I met when he was chair of the Academy SAS committee, and he's an associate specialist cardiologist at the Homerton, and he's going to share his journey.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak about leadership from a personal perspective. We all start our journeys locally, and then some of us have the opportunity of evolving at national stage. I was appointed as staff grade in 2001. Among other strengths, I had academic cardiology qualifications. I decided to become a cardiologist with special interest in echocardiography, data development plan, and using the so-called rudimentary appraisal and jobs planning of those days. Was regraded as associate specialist in 2006. Once I had so-called street credibility, I decided to move into extended roles in clinical, managerial, and educational roles. One thing led to another would be the best way of describing this. All of this gave me with the knowledge and skills to apply for national roles. Was selected at RCP as SAS lead and then elected as chair of Academy's SAS committee. I wanted what we all want, SAS to be a viable career. The landscape was very different. The levers were limited, but with the tools which I had at my disposal, set on working forward. There were two things which I wanted to do. Firstly, influence the way the healthcare is designed and delivered. So the support for the SAS reinforced, they're recognized for their contribution and rewarded appropriately. Coordinated publication of Academy's 16 SAS statements, which proposed solutions to the challenges which the SAS community faced. Helped revise SAS Development Guide, which is an NHS England document in 2020, ensured that the Safe Medical Staffing Report of RCP in 2018 recognized that SAS could have overall responsibility for patient care. And this is a very important document. This formed the basis of autonomous practice for the specialist grade. Ensured that the fellowship was available to all deserving SAS colleagues, unlike before when it was only available to SAS leads, and worked with colleagues from BMA and NHS employers to establish specialist grades, and in the process drafted generic capabilities framework. The second thing which I wanted to do was to engage with SAS community, inform them of the opportunities, solutions to the challenges which they faced, to empower them, amplify their voices by carrying out surveys or helping with the development of service. Analyzed feedbacks from the previous Academy's SAS conferences and made the conferences much more relevant so we could communicate better. Coordinated first ever SAS week by a national organization which was RCP in 2021. And now in England, this is replicated by NHS employers on a yearly basis. Trying to establish good working relationship between BMA, SAS, and Academy's SAS committee. The more we spoke alike, the more the powerful our voice would be. There are a few other things which I would like to talk about in my leadership journey. Look after yourself. Your responsibility is not only to bring the best in others, but also the best in yourself. Have a supportive network, and I was quite fortunate. And when it's time to go when you're at the peak of your journey. Exit gracefully on your own terms. Don't be pushed up. Remember, this journey was never about you. It was about helping others. And lastly, why develop as a leader? There are individual benefits, wider NHS benefits, and then there are benefits to the patients. But ask yourself what I have done to make NHS better for the next generation of SAS. I've kept to my time, 4.5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Waleed. I can say that he's very precise in everything he does. He's a hard taskmaster. So he made us all work hard on the Academy Committee. Wonderful. Next, we've got Julianne Ports, who is the first Northern Irish Associate Dean for SAS Doctors. And she's an associate specialist herself in obstetrics and gynecology in Belfast. The first and not the last associate dean, that is not speaking. Thank you, Lucy, for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation to speak today. So yes, I'm the associate dean in Northern Ireland at the moment for SAS Doctors. I'm no stranger to Scotland. You've been Nine Wells Hospital and featuring really quite heavily today and Tayside. Nine Wells Hospital was my base initially when I started my undergraduate study as a science degree in BSc Honours in microbiology and microbial genetics. And then carried on to study medicine. You see a few little baby icons here. And to explain my career path, the first child I had, often those funny little babies in that position. My first child was born halfway through my medical degree. And I then carried on, finished the degree, and carried on with postgraduate studies initially in Ireland and in Tayside, and stayed there 11 years in total. And as a junior house officer, as it was back then having a son, a large baby, and then continued on. He wanted to be a large baby, and carried on to local posts and then SHO posts in odds and dining. And my interest in odds and dining developed, I think, as a different family. So I passed part one and MRCOG, had 2 more children while I was carrying out SHO posts. You can imagine them with 2 degrees, 4 children, 1 husband, 3 housemates. And I stepped onto a career pathway as a SAS doctor actually quite early. And everything I'm going to speak about today and my career pathway and leadership development, that's all been carried out as a SAS doctor. So I initially started as a staff grade doctor, and how I built my career initially as a staff grade, the most important thing to me was clinical skills. And we see in training lead surveys at SAS are very practical doctors, but they're interested in the clinical care we deliver and they need to be confident with that. And so often we do expand our clinical skills first. Clinical extended roles usually come a little bit later, and for me that was education, both undergraduate and postgraduate. I was recognised as being the lead for the service that I delivered, the clinical lead, although not unpaid initially. And with my science background, was keen to carry on some interesting research, and I was involved for about 8 years in the ovarian cancer screening trial. All of these helped me to progress then to rebuild to associate specialist. This is actually very similar now to the same journey from a specialty doctor to specialist, apart from packages for a rebuilding procedure. So all of these skills that you gather along the way are important for that. But the leadership journey also developed in parallel with the sort of expanding my role locally and future was being competent. Local lead roles I had initially, I didn't recognise being a leader because I might have been leading clinically within the orphan gynecology in that service. I was actually being recognised as lead for the particular area that I delivered. I carried on quality improvement initiatives, more educational activities and research. And my point about this is that all these roles that at first seem to be quite small, they actually expand your network and they expand your reputation. And if you want to eventually, even it's a few years later, you end up in leadership, your network and your reputation are vital. Regional roles, my first regional role was as Northern Ireland representative to the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. That was really a fantastic role. As well as carrying out training in leadership, which came a little bit later, I feel the best training you have if you want to enter a leadership journey is actually looking at other leaders around you. How do they conduct themselves? How do they chair meetings? How do they organise work streams and projects? And so even if some leadership roles are unpaid initially, such as college roles, I couldn't recommend it enough to actually start working with other leaders. And if we're working just as a representative at first, you'll very soon be drawn into other work within colleges. And so national roles then came, and I was currently vice chair of the RCOG SAS Anglically Employed Doctor Committee. I was put on the slides and the work I've done as vice chair of that committee. And
I'm now Associate Dean for SAS Career Development in Northern Ireland, and this is a role that I'm really enjoying, so I really wanted all of you to be encouraged to get into leadership. This slide has a lot on it, but all I want to say about it is I went through my own trust email the past few months. Leadership posts that are open to SAS doctors. And this is just an example of something. I'm very proud that the medical director of Linda, our deanery, and that post was advertised on a competency basis to SAS and to local employed doctors and if you're in permanent contract, actually, but SAS and consultants. And postgraduate dean in Linda very much believes in having a robust recruitment procedure that's competency based. Why should we not trust our recruitment procedures? If someone has the skills and ability, it shouldn't be about job title, but you do have to develop the knowledge and skills. The posts on that last slide that had an asterisk required specialist registration. This is another thing about posts being open to SAS. Do we really need specialist registration? We've heard earlier about 15% of SAS are on the specialist register, but there are many posts that are advertised requirements. You really probably don't need to have that as a criteria, and it may exclude many very good candidates. And so what actually deters us as SAS from being a leader or in a leadership recognised role? Well, Lead has already said, when you look back in retrospect, one thing leads to another and once you start, but perhaps not knowing where to start. What I would say is SAS are perfectly placed to lead clinically. It's our lead role. Follow all the interests and priorities you have, and if you want to learn to be a leader, experience is as important as leadership training. So what you need, I looked at this earlier this morning, role models. You need to be able to have some good lead role models. I've been around today and I'm watching some of the other people who chaired sessions who've spoken today, and there's always something to learn from your colleagues who are in leadership. Leadership is learned a lot on the job. I certainly didn't feel very confident when I initially applied as SAS lead. I was more confident when I applied as Associate Dean, but none of us are confident that we're going to be able to fulfil every aspect of a job whenever it's first advertised. But the leadership you do learn on the move once you're in the post. And the other thing I want to say is, it might be now. I started my leadership journey very late on, and I focused on other things and my family first. You don't have to be on a training path to leadership. And I think my example is to show you all the things that I did, but then are still of use to you in a leadership post. So if it's not of interest to you now, don't rule it out forever. Perhaps things will change and your circumstances will change. But even if it's not of interest to you now, I do support other SAS who are in leadership. That's important to them. And thanks very much. I don't know if I stuck to time, but maybe Wally give me an extra minute or two. So lots of little nuggets there to get people thinking about how they can progress their own leadership journey. Finally, I'm going to invite Lynn Nicholson to speak. She's already introduced herself, but just to remind you that she's an associate specialist in gastroenterology, and I think her main role at the moment is the COPMED Associate Dean.
So thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to be the last panelist of this fantastic day. When we were talking about SAS as leaders, I had a bit of an anxiety that it was a threat or a pinnacle of something, but really my major statement to you is to say that everyone is a leader, and really that's what you're going to do. So just to embarrass myself, which I don't normally do, I am the little sister on the right. That's me at the beginning of my journey to where I am now. I'm an ordinary person. I'm a younger sibling. You wouldn't see yourself as a natural leader when you're the younger sibling. You always follow someone else. And I'm from a normal background, from Dundee, Dundee hits again. And that was me at the beginning of my journey. I went to Edinburgh University and I did SHO training, further training, worked in a fantastic team and department, and actually came across a lot of SAS grade doctors, and perhaps a bit unusually. And I thought they were all fantastically competent. They were usually leading in an area of clinical practice. They were the experts in that area. They were well recognised, well connected, did a great job. I really respected them. And they also had a good work-life balance. And you know something, that was for me. So that's what I did. I moved early on into the SAS grade, and then was regraded. And I put there, personal regrading compared with the new contracts. But like Julianne, actually, it was exactly the same process that I really had to fight hard for my regrading. Originally, presenting that I was competent, independent practice. But actually, one of the tips that a professor in our team had given me very early on was be the expert. Find something in gastroenterology that you want to make your own, become the expert, and you will thrive in your job. And that was the best advice I was given. And that's what I did. I focused in, I did general everything everyone else with all the registrars and all the trainees. And then I focused in on one particular area, made it my own, and got my name there in the area for someone to refer to, and was the expert in this area. And just before I went to one of my maternity leaves, I was the acting service lead, had been for ages. And then when I came back from maternity leave, the consultant had finally retired, as opposed to being the absent person who would see the dentist twice a year. But anyway, he retired, and I was asked if I would formally take up the leadership role as opposed to what I'd been doing before, and they would regrade me. There wasn't money for another 2 years, but it was nice to know that at least I was being recognised for the level of practice that I was doing. And during that time, I'd got involved in the British Society of Gastroenterology. AGIP is the Association of GI Physiology, redesigning the training of GI physiologists, modernising medical careers, etc. So I'd got involved in stuff that was interesting. And there was lots of opportunities if I'd been interested to develop that kind of role further. But actually, I decided that I was getting much more involved in the leadership roles for SAS, as well as having 2 young children at the time as well. And originally I was invited to be part of the Licensing Full-Time Committee in the South East Scotland Deanery, as it was then, to lead SAS rep on the Licensing Full-Time Committee. I was working part-time, or I'd just gone on maternity leave. And I was really honoured. It was great to see the support that was in place for trainees, what support there was for part-time GPs so coming back, to practice. And that was obviously lacking with SAS, but I didn't really feel I could represent SAS. I didn't know who everyone was. I knew that my friends and a few other people. So together we set up a lobbying committee and tried to find out who all the SAS were in our health board, put a contact list together. I became the secretary and sort of, coordinated that. We organised an annual meeting. And so we actually got to know who people were on the ground, and I genuinely felt I could represent them on a committee because I knew what the challenges were. And I think that early understanding of it needs to be two-way communication. If you are in a leadership position, you need to know who you're leading or helping. And that was great. The committee disbanded in 2004 when that dean retired. But we set up a lobbying group that involved in the BMA, really interesting. And then the SAS programme in Scotland that Lindsay has described was established in 2013. Bit later than it was in England and Wales, and we developed SAS education advisory roles. I applied for one of them and was delighted, along with some great colleagues, to be appointed to this new and exciting team, helping and supporting our SAS in Scotland and really developing as a network. It was a really exciting, fantastic time. And then 2 years later, when the lead left, she was consultant, fantastic consultant, but was moving on. And the post became vacant 1 session a week, and I applied for it. It's not really the right time in my life, but I think I've got quite a lot to give. Yes, I decided I would. And at the interviews, I said, actually, can I do this part time? Can I share the job with someone else? So that for someone else also to share it too. And that was a great opportunity to actually learn on the road. Perhaps it was imposter syndrome, perhaps it was learning. But it was a great opportunity, like having a mentor that you could bounce ideas off until I really felt I developed on the job. And then when the associate postgraduate dean role was created 2 years later, I genuinely felt I was ready for that, and have continued to learn from my colleagues as Julianne was saying in the role, really benefiting from seeing how other people are doing things well and taking that forward. And it seemed quite natural then at the end of last year when the SAS role came up that I applied for that and seemed the right thing to be doing. Working with the GMC as part of the other roles. So on the right I put the links, because I have tried my best to make sure that networking is really important to the roles, linking with NES, that's the education in Scotland, roles in the health board with the GMC, with the BMA. And then colleges, that was a positive decision for me because I felt that was something I didn't have any knowledge of or access to the systems. I'd been involved early on with the College in Edinburgh SAS committee, and then stepped back from that when I took on the deanery role. But had a conversation with the previous president here about inclusivity, and was tapped on the shoulder to want to work it to be part of the inclusivity working group that will carry McKean's husband. And then was asked to be assassinated at this college. So that kind of evolved. It wasn't something I particularly thought of, but it's been great to sort of look through the different things. So my comment is, I didn't ever step onto this planet thinking I would be a leader, and it's sort of a bit of a surprise to me that I am here doing that. And my comment is that leadership really is for everyone. It could be just in your clinical role. I don't mean just in a negative way. I think everyone is a leader in their own team. In supporting the juniors, supporting the staff around us, all the allied health professions. We are already leaders, and everyone is a leader. And in your team, or in your wider health board, or in your national role, it really is for everyone. And these roles on the right have been described. Certainly in Scotland, it's fantastic. We've got lots of. We've got Associate Dean Foundation and Simulation, we've got university roles, we've got ADM in Scotland, appraisal leads, all these roles are held by SAS, and I think it's fantastic. Opportunities are there, but you might need training. For some of them, we've already discussed that you need training to be an educational clinical supervisor, or appraisal as well. Appraisal is really positive. It's developmental for us, but it's also a developmental role as an appraiser as well. And we've discussed about needed time in the job plan. So my tips for leadership, I genuinely think it's for everyone. Find your allies and keep your allies through your journey. They will be the people that you will have these conversations with, but they might point out an opportunity that's available for you, that's the right thing to do, because they obviously have seen how they work and what their skills are. So opportunities will come to you, and sometimes you have to look for it, make sure you do them. Or if you don't have time, then say, I don't have time to do that, sorry. Or actually, if you don't have the skills, so if your IT is not your forte, then call someone else around you that can help you with these skills that are not your skills. Make sure that you've got the right people around you helping and supporting you, and recognise your own limitations. Develop your own skills, leadership skills on the job, or whatever the skills are you need. And also, if you're involving other people, which you should be, leadership is not supposed to be you on your own, it's pulling people with you and doing things as a team. Then you need to make sure that you're developing your colleagues and you're really valuing them and recognising them and acknowledging them for the work that they are doing. It's not you that's doing the job, it's everyone as a whole team. And I genuinely think that relationships are one of the most important things. It's not a battle as a SAS against trains or against other groups. We are all supposed to be working together. We're all in healthcare, and a fantastic conference. Really, what can we achieve as SAS for SAS across the UK? I do think that we are trying to engender that positive culture, and I think we are succeeding in influencing change. We as a group have managed to improve the support for SAS, induction for SAS, recognition for support for international medical graduates. We've got SAS funding throughout the whole of the UK. I know sometimes it doesn't land in the right spot or the first week, but the concept is there, the support is there, everyone is being able to access funding at some point in the UK. We do like data because it helps us get back information, and so we know we need to encourage a national survey to be done so that we get the data to ask for things or demonstrate things. Scotland, I'm delighted to say, is opening up training teaching opportunities for all SAS. And I think we want that to happen throughout the UK. We've mentioned educators, and CSER portfolio support is really important. And on the documents, there's many documents, but we need to enact them. CopMed this week, we had a workshop. So CopMed is the deans from the whole of the UK, and we had a workshop on supporting SAS. And we will be launching in September an award system to try and encourage trust boards here in the UK to develop and promote SAS in the workplaces. And I should think that will be a very positive strategy that we'll be taking forward. So thank you so much for everyone for the attention, and a wee bit of panel discussion if that's okay.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much to all of you. So we've got about 15 minutes before we get to closing remarks. We're open for questions now. There was one question that just came through about do you need to be on the specialist register for these roles? The whole point is no, you don't need to be on the specialist register. Okay. Has anybody in the room got any questions, or do I need privileges? Because I've got several things to ask. Okay, so Walid, what are the barriers that you faced along the way? How did you overcome them? And what do you think sort of you're now sort of well into your journey? What do you think the barriers for people nowadays starting out on this? Yeah.
I think if we sort of make it generic, the first sort of challenge which we would face will be the professional culture, which we have talked about. There's a lot of rhetoric about SAS, but no conducive action. Now, this all stems from bias, which we touch in one way. It could be explicit, SAS are no good. It could be implicit or the so-called unconscious bias. Yes, but do you really want SAS to do it? And then there are structure. We want somebody on specialist register or a consultant grade to be able to do that. So that's your first sort of challenge, which you have to sort of overcome. Second sort of challenge comes from time. Most of the SAS do not have adequate SPA times. That's one challenge. Secondly, there are much more SAS who are working flexibly part-time as compared to consultant colleagues. And all the evidence is if you work flexibly part-time, you will find it difficult to progress in your career. The third sort of is variation in sport. As you have sort of seen, there is variation in colleges of the sports SAS. There is variation between trust boards or NHS trusts if you're in England. And within a trust, you could have a very supportive department, or you could be crying your tears out saying, I'm not being supportive. And the last sort of thing, I think, comes down to credibility, belief in yourself that you can do it. A lot of SAS suffer from so-called imposter syndrome that was first described in late 1970s in USA, and it was described in marginalized group women, and that's what the SAS are. So those are your challenges, but my simple advice, perseverance commands success. Thank you.
Okay. So imposter syndrome, Julianne, that's something you've experienced?
Well, I could ask for a show of hands in the room as to who hasn't experienced imposter syndrome at some point, rather than who has. Very common. And if you haven't experienced imposter syndrome, you're a very confident person, or you haven't challenged yourself enough, perhaps, because when we make a transition to a new role and do challenge ourselves doing that, most people will have a degree of imposter syndrome. I think for SAS, it's particularly important because to recognise that this affects SAS, because any sort of marginalised groups or groups who for many years have been told that something is not their business or is not something that they can do, well, I think that's going to be a particular problem to overcome. So the main thing really is recognising it and understanding that actually a lot of people have imposter syndrome, but also looking around at some of the other people who've taken whatever that next step is that is intimidating you and saying, how did they manage it? What was their experience? Did they feel the same? And actually, how has that panned out? Most of the time they're going to say, well, yes, I did feel that, but actually, once I started that leadership job, all the other leaders around me really helped me through it, and I learned from their experience.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and just to bring my own personal reflections in, forgive me, because there's no other questions. When I joined College Council, Fiona Donald joined at the same time as me. She went on to be president. I didn't, but that's fine. I really wouldn't have wanted that. But actually, you think you're going to go into this room and it's the great and the good who you've been seeing on sort of podium speaking for the last 10 years, and you think they're all going to be really terrifying, but actually they're fabulous people, and they really want to help and support you. There's always going to be the odd person that is less interested, but that's right. You're not going to get everyone on your side, but that support and that encouragement is so important. So we're talking, you mentioned allies, I think several of you mentioned allies, but really vital, and networking, building your networks. So sometimes you do just have to take the plunge, and it's surprising what you can do But you only have to start small. You don't have to start really, really big. Nobody should start big, probably. You need to build up incrementally. Lynn, how are we going to actually help all these people to develop as leaders?
I think that everyone just has to think of themselves as a leader, first of all. I don't think you have to have a title originally, you just need to have that concept that you are already leading in your team, in your role, teaching medical students, the trainees that are coming through, the nurses on the ward. You are a leader, and sort of thinking back on that, and then reflecting on what your strengths are, and actually maybe what you need to develop with people to, what you need to develop to be better at supporting your colleagues. And then look at your wider team, and then say, well, okay, do I have the confidence this is the right thing to be doing? Because some of us are introverts and some of us are extroverts, and then it might depend as well on the circumstances you're in. You might feel quite confident in one group, but actually yourself in a room with 60 students looking at you and another 20 on the screen, and you're going to go, oh, I'm a bit thirsty, I've got to try now. And sometimes you are put out of your comfort zone. So how can we equip people to take on these roles more confidently? I think the first one is to be good at what you're doing. So if it's clinically, you need to get these clinical skills so you're confident and comfortable, then you will be happy to teach other people what you're doing. If it's taking on a more formal role, when, as said, shadowing and watching other people, perhaps an introductory leadership course typically is actually a very useful thing. It's a day away from your clinical role, stepping back and actually just thinking a bit about yourself and how you encourage other people in your conversations. What's your communication style? How can I reflect back? What are the challenges? So actually having a fantastic leadership course, we've got Tricia's in the room there leading one of our leadership courses for SAS. And I think these are really key courses. It's not that you need to have training, but I think that going through that whole process and actually having some training actually makes you better evolution as well. So to me, doing that, and then there's the culture. Then it's changing things from top. Making sure that we are capable. So I don't wake up in the morning and go, I must go in a conference and that's not what it's me in the morning, but I know that it's really important that people see that we are actually SAS on the group. That SAS are leading in your college, SAS are leading in whatever groups there are, your IT or whatever it is, specialty you are, that there are SAS in these groups and that they are a voice for you, and that we have that network. And also to culture, a little bit of confidence in ourselves, as you say, in Mr. Syndrome, getting beyond that barrier, but it's also having some confidence. And I never thought I would should do the best things or just go to emails and everything. And that's whatever you are, I hope you are exactly the same.
Thank you. So Nikki Burton, who's one of our SAS tutors down in the Southwest, has pointed out in the chat that the best advert for us is for us to get out there and show what you can do and sort of be the role models and be the ambassadors. Just out of interest, having sort of had this inspiring day, how many of you are going to go away and do something as a result of what you've heard today, whether it's speak to somebody or sort of step up to something, offer to do something? Some tentative hands going up. That's good. That's excellent. Somebody's very interested in where you work, Waleed. You have an admirer, so come on. You're going to have to share with them.
I work at Hermiton Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust, which is in East London, and I think individuals have asked for my contact details. It's w.urshad@nhs.net.
There you go. So, splendid. I'm just going to give credit to Bob Evans, who used to be on our patient committee at the Royal College of Anaesthetists, who's brilliant. And he's sort of actually, I think, thrown down a bit of a challenge to us. So we've had a fabulous day today about how we develop, and it's all been a bit about us. That's fair enough. It's a SAS day. But how is that going to work for patients? So being better, happier doctors is going to be good for patients, but perhaps next time we have the Academy conference, we need to maybe try and work that in a little bit more. So thanks for that challenge, Bob, for thinking about that.
Oh, great. And we spoke about leaders, but we have to accept not everyone wants to be a leader. While they will not recognize actually not all has to be around leaders. We have to eventually be guiding them through the career. We are leading our clinical speaking decision for patients. We are educating the younger generation. So we are leaders, all leaders in our own ways. It's a question of you consider yourself as a leader. So what I would want is from you all three or any of you to give a message to those who may not want to be PR, but at the same time, to very important leadership roles that already played and reinforcing those thoughts and not having enforced imposter syndrome, looking at people like you all sitting on the stage and saying, I wish I had your message for those.
I'll go very quickly because I hope that's what I was trying to say in my message, that is that everyone is a leader and you are in your role or in your family or whatever. So I think that's where your skills are, then focus on that and do it well. And you don't need to be on a stage, but I want everyone to be doing exactly that.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to add, nothing is impossible. I would just say the word impossible itself says I am possible. So go for it.
Okay, so we're almost out of time before closing remarks. I just add my 2 pence because I can't help it. Oh, I'm sorry, the really. Oh, I'll stand this way.
I just want to say that we need to give a shout out to the followers.
Yes.
Because actually, being a leader sometimes does mean step out of the way if somebody has a better idea. And a lot of SAS doctors are flexibly following in the leading, and it's a really good skill. So if none of you want to be leaders as per formal leaders, you will be informal leaders, but also the leaders who want to be leaders need some followers, or nothing will be implemented.
Yeah, that's a very fair point, Lily. And I think it's also important to say that you might not feel that you can do this stuff now, but a bit like Julianne, I didn't really pick this up until I was in my 40s, and I've been having children, moving around a lot. So just because you've reached 40, you don't think, oh, it's over, none of this is going to happen for me. There's still plenty of time when you might have a bit more space to do it. And you don't have to do it. You can happily just doing your clinical work and looking after patients and enjoying that. That's fabulous. Anybody who's happy in their job, why would you want anything more? Just be happy in what you do. So, philosophy, ideas. It's been an amazing day, and we're going to say thank you to these speakers and hand over to the team to close the conference.
So again, you've got me at the end. You actually have me in the photograph, so it's the right time. So I'm not gazumping like this time. He's kindly stood back and said I can have my second time in the sun. I've sat here today and I've been really impressed with the quality, not just of the speakers, but also the quality of the debate and the discussions. I think healthcare is incredibly complex, and I think the debates and the discussions today have actually given a true support to that complexity. It's not simple, but actually we've really been very solutions focused. It's not just about what can somebody do for me, it's what can we do for each other. And I think that's really amazing. I think it's amazing in healthcare generally, but in the group today, I think it's been a really good thing. I think that a lot of the challenges that SAS created doctors feel are being felt by everybody in the health service. So I think it's important that we all believe that we are one part of the health service, and a number of us have come. It's not just. I would challenge Bob actually. I think, what have you done for patients? I think by improving the contentment and the happiness of doctors, you improve the care of patients. There's a lot of good evidence that content doctors deliver better patient care. So I think we are doing something. So I would have challenged Bob had I been up here at the time when he was speaking, but you know, that's fine. But I think it's also, we need to draw that line for the public as well. We need to point out that it's about when they behave in the way that some have been mentioned today. It's about that impacts negatively on other patients. And I think we also know that if we don't support those other members of the healthcare team, that also impacts negatively on patients as well. So I think we have a duty to each other and our patients to treat each other with courtesy and respect and support. And I've seen an awful lot of that today. So what I would like to say is thank you to Vinita and Vishali for an excellent conference and putting in all the hard work so that the Academy looks quite good. And that means that as the chair of the Academy, I get a tick. I'd also like to say thank you to John Paul, who's at the back, who's the Academy team, who's a member who supports the SAS committee. So I think he's also put in a lot of work. Thank you, John Paul. I'd like to say my formal thanks to Mike McCurdy and the physicians and surgeons of Glasgow for agreeing to support this conference, which means it can go ahead. And as I say, it's a very beautiful building we've been in. But I'd like to say thank you to all of you for actually contributing and thinking and being open and vulnerable, which isn't quite easy. It's difficult sometimes to talk about the tricky things we've been talking about today. But I think our profession and our patients are in good hands based on the quality of the discussions we've had today. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. So I here hopefully very briefly, but really with a list of many thanks. Thank you, Chet, for acknowledging and thanking the college as well. But as the first SAS lead for the Royal College of Physician Surgeons of Glasgow, I really have felt very embraced as a SAS here, and they're very keen to keep SAS as shown by hosting the conference today and all the speakers. Thank you to the catering team for our fantastic food at lunch and coffee breaks. And in particular, I want to say thank you to Esther Malcolm, Karen Ross, and all the team for their brilliant organisation. You know, despite the sudden changes with the creative sensitivity at the beginning of the week and two speakers pulling out, you know, they just really can. And just that lovely organisation and calmness has made it work really well. To the IT team at the back, we've made sure that we've really had a nice seamless session that has worked for us in the room, but also particularly for those online, because actually it's really hard sometimes to be online and not feel that you're part of that you know, welcoming. So thank you for all the questions that we've had online as well, which has really meant it's been really valuable. Speakers, we've had colleges, NES, GMC. We didn't have the Defence Union, EMA. You know, we've really had lots of everyone working together, showing how we want to develop and support SAS, and most importantly, SAS in the room and online, contributing to the conversations. Thank you for all your questions; they've been really valuable. Practical things. There's going to be a drinks reception in the lower library, just off the main meeting room where we've got our coffees. But going through to the lower library drinks reception just now, to which everyone is welcome, please go. Recordings will be made available by next Friday, and you'll be getting sent a link with our college dashboard, and the recordings will be available on your college dashboard. And feedback is really important, so we genuinely want to learn online and in person what worked, what you found the best, and ideas for future, so that we can continue to learn and grow. CPD certificates will be issued. They will be in your college dashboard as well. Don't hassle too quickly. Give a week for that to start all appearing as well. And mainly, thank you very much to everyone online for staying here all day and interacting so nicely, and for you all travelling and coming here and coming and seeing our lovely college here. So thank you very much to you all, and good to chat, shall we?